Okay, well, I'll call us together and get started here. So hopefully you all got a copy of each of the handouts. And then there's an attendance sheet going around so you can get your extra credit. Make sure you put your sign onto that. Okay, so thanks for coming today. I have a couple goals for today. So first, what I want to acknowledge is that so you have your hermeneutical process paper coming up. And hopefully, your professors in this class have provided all the sources you need for that paper, right? Awesome, makes it easy for you. That is not a luxury you'll have in the future, of course. So there will be other assignments where you have to do that work on your own. So while you're doing this assignment in this class and you have those resources provided, we thought it would be helpful for you to think about how do you find that sort of stuff in the future when you do not have that advantage. So that's what I want to cover today. So that's the main thing, like how do you find good resources in biblical studies for doing exegetical papers, for doing sermons, for doing whatever biblical study work that you're doing, creating Bible studies, whatever it is. So that's my goal for today. And I'm going to divide that up into two different areas of literature that you want to consider. And so the first one of those is commentaries. And that's, I believe that's what your professors have given you, is sections of commentaries on the Bible that they want you to interact with for this paper. So if you go into the library, like we have tons of commentaries. Like if you just go down into the stacks, you'll find shelves upon shelves of commentaries because like a ton have been written, right? So many. So how do you know which ones are the good ones? Like how do you know which ones you should focus your attention on? So there are a few tools that we have to help you answer that question. So one, there are these commentary guides. So these are 4 that we recommend. I only have 3 of them here. The other one was checked out, but we had some of these. So they are, so first there's like this companion series. We got New Testament Commentary Survey by D.A. Carson and Old Testament Commentary Survey by Tremper Longman. So all these guys, they go book by book of the Bible and say, okay, what commentaries are out there and which ones do these authors, what do they think about them? Tremper Longman does it nice annotated bibliography style. He kind of lists, okay, there's this one, and then has like a little 2 or 3 sentences, or 1 or 3, whatever, about that commentary. Great, and he gives I think he gives a little rate. Yeah, he has little star ratings. So I can pass these around. D.A. Carson writes in a prose style, which is I find a little much harder to skim, but it's also valuable information. Then we have John Evans, his guide here, very thick. I do not know how he does this. John is an alumnus of Covenant, and he is like very comprehensive. So like if there's a commentary out there, he has probably covered it. And he doesn't say much about many of them. Sometimes he just acknowledges that it exists and maybe gives like a sentence fragment about it. But very useful resource as well. And then the last one up there is a newer one. Well, actually, John's commentary, that's the newest edition, just came out. But this New Testament commentary guide by Nijay Gupta, that is a newer one as well. So those are 4 sources you can go to learn more about the top commentaries on any book of the Bible. We also, in the library, have our own guide where we have looked at these guides and said, okay, what is the consensus? Like, what does everyone agree are the major commentaries? And so we've tried to pull that information together. Like, we don't give you, like, the annotations, but we just want to give you a list, like, okay, what are the major commentaries on this book of the Bible? Here you go. Here's your 10 major commentaries you should probably look at. So let's look at using that. So I'm going to go to the library homepage here at library.covenantseminary.edu. And there's a couple different ways you can get to the commentary guide. Probably the fastest if you just scroll down the page to our featured guide section right at the bottom. Third one over right there is the commentary guide. And I'm going to look at Exodus, so I'm going to go to Pentateuch, then to Exodus. And the first thing I want to highlight is at the top of the page, we have the call number regions. So if you just want to go to the shelf and see what's there, these are the call numbers you can go to. So you can go to BS 1225.3, and that'll be Pentateuch commentaries. If you go to 1245.3, that's the Exodus commentaries. So handy little finding aid right there. But the main thing is the major commentaries. And so we just list there, about 10 different commentaries that are the major ones. So these are not, like the ones that, like we agree with or whatever. Like these are, there are lots of different perspectives there all over the spectrum, from liberal critical, conservative evangelical, Jewish, Catholic, everything in between. But these are the ones that, according to the commentary guides, the consensus that these are like the major commentaries that, like, if you're doing work in the book of Exodus, these are the voices that are influential. And so if you want to engage in that, these are the commentaries that you should be engaging with. We do break it up by print, ebooks, and then handily we give you citations for all of them, so you can copy and paste those into your bibliography. I'm going to just scroll down here and look at, say, this commentary by John Currid. All of them linked into our catalog so you can see where they are available. So on this one, we see that we have, this is a 2-volume commentary. We have 1 copy in reference. Let me make that a little bigger for you. 1 copy in the stacks of each volume. And so it just tells you, okay, it's at our library, where in the library it is, reference or stacks, and then where on the shelf it is. And then all the way on the left, it tells you, is it available? Is it checked out? Is it something else? So this one happens to be available, but let's say there's a commentary and it said, oh, these are all on loan. They're all checked out. So what can you do in that sort of situation? So in that case, if there's something that our copy is checked out, or there's something where we just don't own it, we are part of a network called Mobius. And this is a group of academic libraries and public libraries across the state of Missouri and beyond that share books with one another in a very streamlined fashion. So through Mobius, you can get items delivered to the Covenant Library in just 3 to 5 business days. And you get an email notice when they're ready to pick up. Right now, you cannot go to every Mobius library and check out in person. That was a feature for a long time. We recently transitioned systems within Mobius, and that feature has not come back online just yet. It is in development, it's on the roadmap, but that's not quite there yet. A few libraries, and we do have a map on the library website, will allow any Mobius member to come in and get like a free account where they can check out at that library. So that would be like Concordia. You can go there as a Covenant student and check out a book in person. Eventually, this feature will come on where you can actually just go in with your Covenant ID. You do not need to set up a free separate account with each library. But if you do need to get something real quick and you just want to drive down to Concordia and grab it, that is a possibility. But Mobius does include other seminaries like Kenrick Lennon's local Catholic seminary, Midwestern Baptist and Southwestern Baptist are all in Mobius, as well as large research universities like Washington University, St. Louis University, and the entire University of Missouri system. And then there are a bunch of small to mid-sized colleges and universities in there as well. So it's a really rich collection that provides a lot of material. Again, additional copies of things that we own if it's checked out, or just more things than we could ever possibly purchase to include in our library. So it's a really great resource to get anything that you might need. So let's go back to the library catalog here, and let's just, for the sake of argument, say that this was checked out and I wanted to get a copy of it. So I'm just going to grab the title there and go back to the library homepage. And I'll go over to the library catalog tab and toggle on to the Mobius catalog. paste that in there. And it comes up. And so there are several different copies available in Mobius. So to place a request on that, I just place a hold. I do need to sign in. Find covenant. There we go. And this sends me over into our single sign-on system. I logged into Canvas earlier today, so it automatically recognized me and signed me in. And I just need to hit place a hold again, tell it where I want to pick it up, which Buswell Library is the only option right now, and click place hold. And my request has been sent. So the library will pull that, send it through to Mobius Carrier, and I'll get an email when that arrives. Now, one caveat right now is that, so I mentioned that this was a 2-volume commentary, and it did not give me the option to choose which volume I want. That is another feature that is hopefully soon to be in place, where I can select a particular volume. So if you do need to get something from Mobius that is a multi-volume work, please contact the library and we can help you place that request. But otherwise, if it's just a single volume thing, go ahead and place that request yourself whenever you wish. Okay. The other kind of related question we get in this area sometimes is, what about study Bibles? You have your study Bible, it has those great notes at the bottom. Is that the sort of thing that I can cite in my paper? And generally we say no, because study Bibles aren't really considered an academic source. So what we recommend instead is that you look at the list of contributors in the front of your study Bible to see who wrote the study notes on that you're referring to. The ESV Study Bible, our own Jay Sklar, wrote the study notes on Leviticus, and surprise, surprise, Jay Sklar has published a few commentaries on Leviticus. So that's where you should go. You should see, okay, has this author published on this book anywhere else? Let's go to the commentary, get the more detailed discussion, and cite that idea from there instead. Any questions about commentaries, Mobius, or anything like that at this point? Okay, great. So we'll move on. And the other literature source I wanted to talk to you about today is journal articles. So journal articles are just a really great way to get the cutting edge research and thought about any topic. They're shorter, more focused, and published more frequently. So it's a very valuable source. There are a few places you can go to find scholarly articles in biblical studies. We have 4 different databases through the library. Well, we have several different, but these are the 4 main ones. The Atla Religion Database, New Testament Abstracts, Old Testament Abstracts, and Religious and Theological Abstracts. All 4 of these allow you to search for articles based on a scripture reference or citation. So you can look up your passage of scripture in these databases and find articles that talk about that passage. Not all of these databases are as easy to use in that regard. It is a special search mode, and they each do it a little bit differently. I'm going to focus on Atla Religion today for you. That's probably the one that you'll end up using the most. It's often a good strategy to start an Atla Religion, see how far you get. If that gets you what you need, great. If you need to find more information or go a little different direction, you can supplement from those other databases. But starting in Atla is typically a great idea. And so that's what I'm going to look at today. Let me clean up a few of my tabs here and come back to the library homepage. Just reset everything there. And for this, I'm going to go over to Databases Journals. And we have our lists of databases by subject, or you can view all databases. The library provides access to 60 or so different databases across lots of different academic fields. So if you're looking for something in a different subject area than religion and theology, we probably have something that can help you with that. So you can browse through that list. But I'm going to look at religion and theology today. And so you see Atla, NTA, OTA, RTA, all right there at the top of the list. But we have other options down below you can browse through. Let me go into Atla. And you might be tempted to just type your scripture reference right into that search box, but that probably will not work correctly because the computer doesn't really understand scripture ranges. So if I say verses 1 to 3, it's not going to understand that verse 2 is part of that range. It just literally reads that dash character and searches for that. So you do have to go into a special mode to do the scripture citation search. And one thing that's very suggestive, up at the top of the screen, you'll see this link up here that says Scriptures. So that's one option. We can click on that. It presents me with a list of the books of the Bible in canonical order. So I can go into Genesis, and I can expand Genesis to see the chapters. I can pick a chapter and expand that to go to the verses. And I can pick, say, verse 2. And it does a search in this special mode to find anything that references verse 2 or a range containing verse 2. So there's my results. The weakness in this approach is that, as you can see, I can only choose an entire chapter or a single verse. There's like nothing in between. Like I can't do verses 1 through 10. So if I want to do that kind of search, I need to go through a different mode. So if I'm looking at a part of a chapter. So I go up here to More, and I'm going to choose the only option there, which is indexes. And I'm going to browse the Bible citation index. And then I need to put in which book and chapter I'm looking for. So here I'm going to look for Corinthians. So whenever you have a book that is a first or a second, you do have to put it in a special way. So Corinthians, comma, space, 1 ST for 1 Corinthians. 2 ND for second. Put another space, and then I'm going to put in chapter 11, and I'm going to browse to see what I find. So I'm interested in verses 2 through 16, and this gives me a list of all the different scripture ranges that are referenced within the database. And then over on the right-hand side here, you can see how many times each particular reference is cited. So I just need to go through and pick whichever of these entries are of relevance to the range that I have in mind. So anything that overlaps with 2 through 16 is what I'm looking for. So I can skip anything that's about only verse 1. That's outside my range, so I can leave that out. But 1 through 12, yeah, I'll grab that. And I'm just going to check off all of these. So here's anything starting with verse 1. They are sorted a little oddly, so it jumps from 1 to 10. 2 will come after the teens because it's sorting alphabetically rather than numerically. So I'm just going to come down here and click through 14, 15, 16. There we go. Next page. Let's see. I don't need 17 because I'm stopping at verse 16. So pass there from 19. There's verse 2. Next. Another verse 2, 20. We'll skip all the 20s. More 20s. There's verse 3. Skip over to 30s. There's 4, 5, 6, and 7, 8, and 9. And now we're on to chapter 12. So poke around. Previous page, next page, until you get everything that applies to you. A little tedious, but fairly straightforward. So once I've checked off all the ranges that I'm interested in, I add those to my search. It builds the search syntax for me, and I just click the search button. And there's my search results. So I've got 242 articles that cover some part or all of verses 2 through 16 of 1 Corinthians 11. I can filter my results on the side here. So if I only want the 194 articles that are in English, I can do that. And then I can look at my results. So it has the article title. It tells you who the author is, what source it was published in, and when, pages, etc., and some other information there. You will often see a PDF attached. So I can just click on that, pull up the article, read it online, download it, print it, whatever I want to do with it. But as you see, there are some things that do not have a PDF. So if I come down here to, say, this article here, no PDF, but it gives me this option to find full text at Covenant. So I click that link, and this service will go out and see, do we have access to it in any other way? Do we have it in another database? Do we have an e-journal subscription? Do we have a print subscription? It searches our holdings. And in this case, it found that, yes, we have online access to this article. We have an e-journal subscription in this case to this publication. There is a note that this one happens to only be accessible on campus, so you do have to be on campus to use these links. But I'm on campus, so I can click through and view that article directly from the publisher. We also have it in print. So if you don't see any online options, the next option would be print. Do we have in our print holdings? We do have 1969 to present. I can click through into the library catalog to see the detailed holding statement just to confirm that we do have that print issue, and I can go to the shelf, grab it, and scan it. If there's no online access, there's no print access, we don't have that particular issue, or we just don't have that journal title, you will also always have the option to request it through interlibrary loan. So I click through here. This is the one library system where you still need to log in with your library card number. If you don't have that handy, we do provide a link to instructions where you can look up your library card number in MyCTS. I've got it saved in there, so I can just click through. It fills out the form for me. It sent all the information in. I just want to check to make sure that everything looks correct and it landed in the right spot. And then I can click agree, submit this request. The library staff will go to work finding a library that has that journal and get a scan sent to you by email. Okay. Now, ATLA also indexes things besides just journal articles. The other thing you'll often find popping up in here are essays that are published in books. So it's very similar, it's about the same length as an article perhaps, but instead of being published in a periodical or academic journal, a bunch of essays were collected and they were published in a book. So I'm going to limit to just those essays right now, and so that's what they look like. You should not expect to find a PDF for these in the database, but you may be able to find that in the library's collection. So let me grab this one. I'll click Find Full Text at Covenant again, and it gives me the library catalog search. So I can search for that in our catalog. We do not have it, but up here it does give you the option to send that search to Mobius. And it turns out that St. Louis University has it, so I can request it directly from SLU, get that book, and get access to that essay that way. And again, if that's not an option, then you can also do an interlibrary loan request there as well. So in this case, it's recognizing I'm requesting a chapter or essay from a book. It has filled in the form for me. I may want to throw in the publisher to help the librarians out a little bit, and I can submit that request as well. Okay. So do you have any questions about searching for journal articles? Great. So I always say, the scripture searching can be a little, students often like, how do I, you showed me how to do that. How do you do that? That's fine. Like, I'm perfectly fine if, when it comes time for you to do this, give the library staff a call, come see us. We're happy to walk you through that process. The main thing I want you to come away with today is that this is a thing that's possible. And so that you've seen it can be done, kind of how to do it. If you remember how to do it, great. I've given you a handout there that gives you instructions on how to do that. But if you want to have a librarian walk through that with you, we're most happy to do so. The last thing I want to talk about with journal articles is the case where you're reading, say, a commentary or maybe another journal article, and you see that the author cites a journal article, that you want to go on and read. It's like, oh, that looks really interesting. That would be relevant to my research. How do I go about accessing that thing? So to answer that question, we're going to come back to the library homepage. And again, we're going to click on the Databases Journals tab. And below the database listings, there's a journal title search where you can plug in any journal title and find out, does the library have access to it and where? So if you see a citation to something published in Catholic Biblical Quarterly, if I can type, Biblical Quarterly. So I'll type that in, click search, and it finds all the places I can go to get access to that periodical. So list the database and then what dates are available. So Academic Search Premier has 1990 to present. The Outlaw Religion database goes back to 1939. Our print holdings go back to 1939. So you can just choose whichever one has the coverage that you need. Click on it to go into that database. Usually you'll come to some sort of page that looks something like this, where it's a record for the publication details of that journal. And there'll be a listing somewhere of the issues that are available in the database. So I can just go, okay, my article is from 2018 in issue 3. And there's all the articles in issue 3. So I can skim through there. I can type the title in to modify my search and find the journal article that I need. Okay. So we talked about finding commentaries, talked about finding journal articles. So now you have a ton of stuff at your disposal, tons of resources. How do you know which of them are actually helpful and useful to you? So there's a couple different approaches that you can take. So I gave you a booklet that kind of addresses that a little bit. I'm going to take you through a slightly different way of conceptualizing it through the CRAP test from California State University. So currency. So when was this thing published, right? And how important is it that your research be up to date? So for my friends in the counseling program, when you're doing your counseling paper, like currency is like super important. Like you want the most up-to-date research. So you're putting the limiter in the database where you only want stuff published in the past 5 years, 10 years maybe, to really filter down your results to the most recent stuff. Biblical studies, we're a little less sensitive to currency. Like that still can be important, like discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls and all, right? But we still read Calvin, we still read the Church Fathers. So there's still merit in some of the older material. So currency is just a little less of an important factor, depending on what you're doing, right? And so it's very contextually sensitive. Like, what is your question? How important is it to you that this was published, since the year 2000 or 20th century or what have you? Relevance. So this is the question of, okay, you've got this thing in front of you. Like, how does this thing address your question? Or how relevant is it to your question? Who is the intended audience of this thing? Is this a scholarly thing with lots of footnotes and interaction with other scholars in the field? Or is this a popular level treatment of the subject? Who is this written for, and is that appropriate for the work that you're doing? So again, there's that question. Maybe that pop level thing is super important to you because you need to know how was this concept addressed in popular culture, or how did people discuss or think about this? Or, okay, I need some really rigorous academic research here for my question. Authority. So why should you listen to this thing that you have in front of you? Who authored it? Who published it? What's the source of it? Who sponsored it? What are their credentials? What makes them an expert on the topic that you should listen to? Accuracy. So the author, where are they getting their information? What supporting evidence are they providing? If it's a journal article, has it gone through a peer review process before getting published? Has it been vetted by other scholars in the field? Are you seeing errors made here and there, and what does that say about the reliability of the whole argument? And finally, the purpose. Why does this exist? Why did someone bother to spend their time writing it? Is this factual opinion, propaganda? Are they coming at it from trying to maintain an objective, more impartial perspective? Are they giving fair shake to people who disagree with them and engaging faithfully? Or are they showing their bias? Are they interacting with straw men? So those are some of the considerations you can take as you consider the things that you find out there for your research. Any questions about anything library related or research related or anything I can help you with right now? Yes? Yes. Yes. So you're referring, we have a bunch of binders of the commentary guide, right? So we have it divided up into like Pentateuch, whatever. That is the exact same thing that's online. We just have it. Some things we have in print, so it's handy when you're in the library, you just want to grab a sheet of paper. Yes, but that is exactly the same thing that we have online. Other questions? Great. Well, you know where to find us. We're over there in the library, so you can come see me when you want to do your scripture citation search. Mark or Becky or other librarians are also very willing and capable to help you. Student workers at the front desk can also point you in the right direction. So any kind of questions you have, come see us, shoot us an email, set up an appointment with us. Use our chat widget if you like. Lots of different ways to reach us. But yeah, I hope hope your paper goes well this semester.
Thanks for all this.
Yeah.